In a land of sunshine where the palm trees sway, there's a special show to brighten up your day. From rockin' festivals to Broadway dreams, tune in with Bonnie G. It's a desert scene. The desert scene with Bonnie G. Meet the stars and feel the beat. From the Coachella Valley, it's the place to be. For all the culture, fun, and harmony. The desert scene, yeah, with Bonnie G.
Mutual Broadcasting welcomes you to the Desert Scene, featuring conversations with the people who make culture, art, and entertainment happen in the Coachella Valley. From local theater to live music, art exhibits to cinema and beyond. Now, here is your host, Bonnie G.
Welcome to the Desert Scene. So happy to have you here, and very happy to welcome to the show today Christin Byrdsong, who's playing Judas in the new version of Jesus Christ Superstar, opening at CVRep on March 5th. Hi, Christin. How are you?
I'm doing so well, Bonnie. How are you?
Good. So, I know you've been in this show several times before, but in the past you played Jesus. Is that correct? Is this your first time actually playing Judas?
Yes, this is my first time playing Judas.
And how is that? Must be an interesting experience to have played that other sort of lead role so many times and then kind of switch over. What's that experience been like so far in rehearsal?
It has been a very different perspective. Previously, it was incredibly important to me. I would only ever audition for Jesus. I've always felt that it's important for audiences to see Jesus as something other than the typical white, blonde, blue-eyed person. It shapes how people view faith and villains and things like that. And so this time, I think, coming from the perspective of Judas, I think that there's a lot about his perspective that kind of mirrors the current political climate in a lot of ways. People thinking that what they're doing is right, but actually having a negative effect on other people's lives. In this regard, Judas being the reason that Jesus is killed.
And is there Are there, because every time you do a production, each theater company, each director sort of can bring their own stamp to it and approach it their own way. Are there any differences in the approach with this production of the musical?
I mean, we actually haven't started the rehearsals yet. I start rehearsals on Tuesday. And
okay.
But just from talking to Adam just ahead of the time as we've been kind of, making sure we're in the same headspace in the approach for the character. I think it's very important for us to show the different perspective because Judas is so often portrayed as a villain. And like I was saying before, he believes that he's doing the right thing. And I think so often, especially people coming from a religious or faith-based background, Jesus is the hero of the story and Judas is the villain. But Jesus would not be Christ had it not been for Judas' intervention. And I think that that's an incredibly important perspective to tell because we would not, in this current day and age, we would not have a perspective around the Christian faith had it not been for what Judas did in the story. And so I think that Adam is really focused on trying to highlight the importance of the character as having a very human experience rather than just being out to get the main character.
Yeah, I was thinking of portraying him as a human being,
Right.
well-rounded. Most people are not all one thing or all good or all bad. Everyone's human and has sort of mixtures of things in there. Let's go back a little bit. So you were born in Los Angeles and started doing commercials at age 3. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So did you have a showbiz family, or how did you get into it at age 3?
I do. I come from a family of performers. At the time, I have a cousin who is slightly older than me. And she was already in the business, had done, at a very young age, had done several commercials and films with Denzel Washington. My mother is a singer. My grandmother was a classical pianist and diver, and she taught me to swim. I was on the swim team in high school. My cousins are also performers and have done backup for Kim Burrell, Whitney Houston. So it's definitely a family affair.
So now, did you ever have any question as a kid? Did you always want to do it, or you weren't kind of like pushed into something you didn't want to do?
No, it was something that I've always known that I've wanted, and I do recognize, and I don't the gift of that, and I don't take that for granted. Whenever I have felt any sort of doubt in my path, I remember that my last name is Byrdsong, and so it's kind of a reminder of that this is what I was born to do.
Yeah. And I love it, Byrdsong. So yeah, with a name like that, it's like you almost have to sing. So
right.
Growing up, so tell me about your arc. So high school, college, what was your first big job as an adult?
As an adult, what was my first big job? I did a production of my first equity production was a show called Big River that I did at Oklahoma Lyric. But I had done like several national commercials before that. But I guess my first big job in theater was a show off Broadway that I did called Figaro 90210. It's based off of The Marriage of Figaro, but it's a modern take based on Beverly Hills 90210. And then after that, I would say it got bigger, and I had the privilege of playing Simba in The Lion King in the national tour.
Excellent. Now tell me about everyone in your family pretty much is a performer. Were there ever any sort of competition kind of feelings with anyone else in the family and or pressure to succeed to a certain level in the business?
No, thankfully, and I know that a lot of families do deal with that, but my family is so supportive. I mean, my little brother and sister, my brother sings, my sister sings as well, but when I was on tour, they would fly all over the country to wherever we were to come and see me perform. And my cousins who were also successful in the business, they've all been like, what are you doing next? And where are you going to be? And how can we support? It's very much a system of love. It's really beautiful.
That's great. Tell me about how you prepare for a big show. So, doing either Jesus or Judas and Jesus Christ Superstar or some of the other national tours. Do you have a ritual you do before you go on stage, or what's your sort of preparation process?
Yeah. To prepare for a role, I start with monologuing the lyrics of the songs first. I studied with Dr. Florence Birdwell at Oklahoma City University, and she said, before you approach any music, start with the words, because singing is just speaking on pitch. And once you have the words in your body, then the music comes naturally. And the most important part of the song is the words. And so then before I actually get ready to go on stage, I wake up and I vocalize. I go to the gym to get my body warm. I come home, I sing a bit more and have a good meal. And then I say a prayer and try to get into the mindset and stay relaxed. I have a playlist that I listen to. I'm very ritualistic. I listen to the same playlist before every show, and then I go on. I always get nervous right before I walk out on stage, but then as soon as I'm on stage, I feel
excellent. And I'm guessing you're somebody that, and I think most professional performers do, especially when you're younger, is always continuing to study and train, as even when you have success professionally, you always want to keep your instrument tuned up, whether it's your voice or whatever.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I also teach voice lessons myself, which is such a fantastic way of staying connected with your instrument. And I find myself repeating a lot of the things that my voice teachers have taught me. And so that has me checking in with my technique so I can demonstrate to the people that I'm working with. And then I study voice lessons from a gentleman named Isaiah Bailey. We also went to college together, and then we were on tour with the Lion King together. And he's just such a fantastic vocalist himself and voice teacher, and has really helped me be even more connected to my own instrument.
Yeah. Will this be your first time performing in Palm Springs?
Yes, it will. Yeah. Very excited. I got to see Coachella Valley Rep's production of Next to Normal. My dear friend Bly Voth played the leading role in that, and I just fell in love with the theater and the space, and Bly just raved about how fantastic an experience she had there. So I was like, okay, cool, let me audition and see what happens. So I'm very excited. It'll be my first time actually being in Palm Springs for a significant amount of time.
Excellent.
So I'm very excited about it. It's such a beautiful
You're going to
city.
love it. I've interviewed a lot of people who came from LA and came out to do a show or visit and end up moving here. So it's a very seductive place. What's on your bucket list? You've done a lot of great shows, The Lion King, Jesus Christ Superstar. Are there a couple shows or roles that you'd really like to do at some point in your career?
I am very blessed to have done my dream roles already. My dream roles have been Simba in The Lion King and Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar, and now Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar. My bucket list is to have a role written for me. I'm very young to have been able to cross those roles off of my list, but I think to have something that's specifically written for me and my capabilities, I think would just be fantastic. Because, a lot of the times when you approach a role that someone has already done, you are fighting against what people already know about that role.
Exactly.
And you listen to the soundtrack and you try to make sure that you're not taking on too many inflections of what someone else has already done. So to just be able to put my own stamp on something and have that be the blueprint and inspire someone else, a younger Christin Byrdsong, to want to make a name for himself would be a dream come true.
And have you done or have you thought about doing like a one-man cabaret kind of show?
Yes, slowly but surely I'm putting something together for myself, and I would really love to do something like that. Maybe one day in Palm Springs.
Yeah. Palm Street Cabaret is very popular here. I think it would be a great idea. All right. Jesus Christ Superstar opens March 5th at CVRep. For tickets, you can go to www.cvrep.org or call 760-296-2966. Christin Byrdsong is going to play Judas. I'm reviewing for a local newspaper. I'm so excited to see you. And congratulations and thank you for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and we'll see the rest of you the next time on The Desert Scene.
The Desert Scene with Bonnie G. Meet the stars and feel the beat. From the Coachella Valley, it's the place to be. For all the culture, fun, and harmony. The Desert Scene, yeah, with Bonnie G. The Desert Scene's where you belong with Mutual Broadcasting's Bonnie G. Just sing along. Just sing along.